Hello, people of the interwebs that happen to stumble upon this video. Welcome to my channel, Her Habits. I'm here today to discuss transgender women competing in female sports. Let's just get right into it. Because why not? What inspired me to make this video was recently there's some transgender athletes in the headlines yet again for dominating in female sports. So every time this happens, the debate seems to come up again, should transgender women be able to compete in female sports? I have a main point to make about this whole argument. It actually pertains to the definitions of sex and gender that are put out there by the proponents of gender ideology themselves. So let's just go over the new definitions of biological sex versus gender. These definitions I got here actually from the Government of Canada website. I'm in Canada, so that's what I'm using. So they say sex refers to the biological characteristics such as anatomy. Example, body size and shape and physiology. Example, hormonal activity or functioning of organs that distinguish males and females. Females. Did I say females? What in the heck? And then they say gender refers to the array of socially and culturally constructed roles, relationships, attitudes, personality traits, behaviors, values, and relative power and influence that society ascribes to two sexes on a differential basis. We're going along the lines of, say, gender is a social construct, which is I don't believe that. I don't believe gender itself is the construct. I believe the gender norms and stereotypes and expectations, that's the construct. But to me, I still view gender as interchangeable with sex. But the gender ideology now is saying that they're two different things. And gender identity specifically is how you feel on the inside and how you identify, what you identify as. But I guess you would be a lot of times identifying as a biological sex. That's how you would identify. Here's the issue I have is they claim that it's two separate things, but then they conflate the two when it comes to things like sports, like female sports. You can identify as a biological female or a woman or whatever you want, but when you're competing in a sport that's categorized by biological sex, male and female, you obviously you weren't born that biological sex, and there's differences in the two sexes. And I there's also a third, intersex. I would say I was actually researching about all that because that's interesting to me too. But for the most part, there's the two biological sexes. And so this is where it's you can't just ignore biology, and that there's clear advantages when you were born a biological male and that is your sex. And if gender is different and you want to identify differently, by all means, do whatever you want, except if you want to compete in a sport, sorry, but there's regulations and there's criteria, and it's categorized by biological sex, not gender. Although I still believe that gender and biological sex are interchangeable. So the whole, the gender ideology thing, they claim they're different, but then they interchange them anyways because we use the word gender and gendered language to refer to biological sex. That's my main point here. Bear with me. I'm not used to doing these types of commentary videos. I've been doing a lot of shorts content, but I want to get into doing more these style videos. It's just, it's frustrating. It's oh, you're transphobic. You're
transphobic. You are absolutely transphobic
for not wanting people who identify as female competing in a actual biological female sport. You're transphobic for not wanting them to compete with each other. But the category was made to begin with to allow fairness. Why they even started categorizing sports with male and female was first of all, there wasn't really even any women's sports. It was mostly just male sports, I guess. And then they probably just had the one category, and women just didn't even compete because they, for one thing, would have no chance for the most part for most sports. But yeah, then they created, I guess, women's sports, and then it helped promote it and support women to do athletic things as well, and also just to create an even playing field, right? So when someone is born with characteristics that give them a clear advantage, I just don't see that as fair. I, as someone who competed as a kid in various different sports, I'd be pretty upset if I were to compete against someone that clearly had an advantage over me, that just no matter what I did, you wouldn't measure up. Obviously there's exceptions. There's females that are better than certain males at sports or whatever. But when everyone's like training and they're training their whole life they're dedicating so much of themselves to that sport, they're all athletic and whatever. And it's like, as a female, like your ultimate best compared to like a male's or a biological male's ultimate best, it's not really going to compare. It's not going to be fair. The question is like, what do we do? Do we make a third category? Like, I'm all for making a third category. I think it'd be great to allow people that option. How I see it too right now is like, if you were born a biological male, you're a transgender woman, if you're allowed, if you're able and you're entitled to like also compete in the women's category, like you get to choose from two categories. You can compete in the men's category or you could compete in the women's, as long as the sport still currently allows it. There's some pushback and they're making more regulations around letting transgender people compete, but say it's like, you know, anyone can compete. Like you get to choose between two, but biological female, I don't think you're even allowed, if you wanted to, compete in the men's category. I guess for certain things. There was actually a female hockey player that played in the NHL, but like for the Olympics, like you obviously just like, you wouldn't want to too, because like you'd obviously you'd have no chance. Like, why would you just choose to like compete with the men? You know, like you just have one category that you can compete in. But with transgender people, it's like they could compete in the males category if they wanted. Like they could still identify as a woman but compete in the males category. Obviously, I think if they were taking hormones and all that, they would have like a disadvantage, because that's going to be affecting their body and stuff, to have like less testosterone or whatnot, or more estrogen, I think it is. But I just don't think it's that fair to like have also free reign over, you know, both the categories. And it's just like, you can't always have your cake and eat it too. Unfortunately, you can't. There's sacrifices sometimes that need to be made with certain choices that you make. Or like me, for instance, like I was actually diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and the disorder limits me in a lot of ways, just with like certain jobs that I am able to do and things about my life. Or there's just like other examples. If you're born shorter, you're not going to be able to reach things on high shelves that people that were born tall that are able to do. Unfortunately, you just can't always have everything that you want.
You can't always get what you want.
The gender ideology stuff, there's no concrete explanations of exactly what it even means. Like, it contradicts itself constantly. It just doesn't make sense. They claim it's different. Gender and sex are different.
There is a difference. There is biological sex, and a lot of times people are conflating sex and gender. So there's biological sex and then there's gender, and that's a social construct.
Yet when it comes to situations like this with the sports, they are conflating the two. So it's just like, one solution to it is the FINA, which is the International Swimming Association, I believe, what it stands for. It's the acronyms in French. So they prohibit transgender women from competing unless they began medical treatments to suppress production of testosterone before going through one of the early stages of puberty, or by age 12. So if you went on puberty blockers, I think by age 12 or so, like basically if you didn't go through male puberty, you're able to compete in the women's category. That probably came as a response of the transgender swimmer Leah Thomas, very much dominating in women's swimming. That seems like way more fair. It's not gonna be exact or whatever, but it's like way more fair, I think, rather than just like letting anyone compete in whatever category. You know, there's got to be some type of rule, like, oh, you need to at least have been on hormones for this long or whatever, because literally in today's day and age, you can just say you're a woman and you are that. Like, you are affirmed that.
Womanhood is something that is an umbrella term. It includes people
That describes what?
People who identify as a woman.
Identify as what?
As a woman.
What is that?
Was to each their own.
A person who identifies as a woman.
But what are they identifying as?
As a woman.
But what is that?
As a woman.
You can just say, identify, do nothing, don't go on any hormones. And it's like, if you don't believe that, you're a bigot. So those are my thoughts. I think this has been long enough. I didn't need to ramble that much, I think, just to like hit that one point home, but we'll see what happens. I'm just lucky that I did figure skating as a kid. I played soccer. It would just be really frustrating if, say, I was competing for figure skating and I had someone in my category that was transgender, and they had gone through male puberty, and they had like a big advantage, that undeniable physical advantage, and say they just kept winning every single competition, like by far. Okay, then I guess the best I'm gonna get is always gonna be second, like that's the best that I could get. And then it's like, what if another transgender athlete enters the competition?
2 transgender high school runners, well, they're kicking up dust in Connecticut, taking the top spots at the state girls championship.
And then it's always between them, they get first or second. And it's like, okay, well, the best I could get is like third. There's things like if you come in the top 4, you qualify for provincials or things like that. Figure skating, there's not scholarships that I know of, but you know, tennis or soccer, other sports, there's like scholarships and opportunities. And it only seems fair to me to have an even playing field. So those are my thoughts. What do you guys think? Yes, I'm transphobic just for saying all this and posting this. Oh no. What are you gonna do? I genuinely actually don't care if people think that of me at this point, and that's why I'm gonna start making a lot more content like this. So you're gonna want to stay tuned for that. Click the subscribe button, click the notification bell so you get the updates when I upload. If you enjoyed this video, please click the like button. It helps me in the algorithm. It helps because sometimes this type of content can be suppressed, you know, but yeah, I think these are really important conversations to have. Comment, please. Let me know what you think. I really don't want everyone just agreeing with me. I like having discourse and everyone having their own thoughts and opinions about different things. So feel free to comment. It's all opinions welcome here on my channel. Love you guys, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye. I'm so awkward. I feel really awkward. Just gonna take practice. It's gonna take practice. Then I'll get more comfortable with myself and talking to the camera by myself. Okay, signing off. Bye.